Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the L1 show where we share links with friends. Today is April 5th, and we're doing business and security stories to share with your friends.
Of course, we're going to start with the collapse. The collapse continues.
There's a lot of economic badness.
Yeah.
And some big company names.
Electronic Arts is cutting about 800 jobs or 6% of its workforce, reducing its office space. It's going to be more work from home, but also they're subletting a bunch of their office space, which is kind of a theme that we're going to see in a bunch of stories, not just Electronic Arts. Everybody in this chat and watching the video, they probably know somebody and or are affected themselves. Whether it's technology to whatever, everybody's affected.
And up until this point, for the most part, it's been the bottom rung of the ladder that's being shaken off. The lowest of the tiers, the people that they really, really didn't need.
I'm sure the people in the tech don't feel that way though.
And
Google, they laid off a 20-year veteran at Google.
Well, I mean, there's a good argument that these people are the most useless, right? But usually they're protected from this kind of thing.
Disney layoffs have hit NBC have hit ABC News as several top executives have been let go. They said it's a necessary step.
It's impressive that the executives were let go and not just all the peons.
Well, there's a double threat though. It's like, we make fun of this and we say, oh, there's economic collapse, blah, blah, blah. These companies are also doing this regardless of economic reasons because it's an opportunity to do this kind of thing without anybody really freaking out.
I think people are freaking out.
Well,
it might also give them a chance to equalize, so it looks like the line is still going up, even though it's just they're saving money on some stuff.
It is sort of interesting that we are still in a spot where a company can't just say, we're going to lay you off because we would like the shareholder line to go up and not because we really need to. And they're not sociopathic enough to just say that at any time. They have to wait for macroeconomic conditions to be like, that's a good excuse, right? Yeah, macroeconomic conditions, you're out.
Yeah.
And I don't even see how this company is still in business. I guess a lot of people use these because TVs are so bad these days.
Streaming device maker Roku to cut 200 jobs in second round of layoffs.
We got my mom one of these, and she loves it because she couldn't handle a Google USB thing.
Again, are they basic, more basic interface?
Yeah, really basic interface.
Okay. And again, we know from the Silicon Valley Bank bailout that they had $500 million in their payroll account, so they'll be okay for a while, even with zero income.
They should be out of business because they should have lost that because that was stupid. And this one, I remember when this first happened, we talked about it, and we were like, "This is really? Do we need this?" Because you can get. I guess most grocery stores don't sell hard liquor, but you can get alcohol delivered through grocery delivery, right?
Around here, it had always been the case that you could tell the pizza delivery driver that there's $20 if they stop by and pick up a case of beer. Mm-hmm. That's about what you think.
That was probably unofficial though.
Yeah, that's for sure against Domino's policy.
Yeah,
for sure. This was legal, but I'm not sure how. I don't know if they made a lot of money, but they definitely are taking advantage of the layoff bandwagon.
Drizly employees affected by the layoff tidal wave. So this is Uber. Uber runs Drizly, but it's an Uber for alcohol. Instead of shuttling people around, you just order alcohol and they'll go pick it up from your local liquor store.
Seems like it's kind of a net benefit to society, so the drunks aren't driving to the liquor store.
Yeah.
But
you know how they have Uber and they have Uber Eats? They should rebrand this as Uber Forgets. And the electric cars are not selling the way that the companies thought they would. One of the big issues seems to be that they're all insanely expensive.
Right.
And suddenly everybody is broke. So if you have a electric car company that's not one of the big ones, you're definitely going to be hurting.
Lucid to lay off 1,300 employees in its restructuring. That's 18% of its workforce.
I've never seen a Lucid on the road. Have you?
No. I've never even heard of them.
Rivian is the only one that I've seen, and the people that own Rivian are even more likely to tell you how much they love their vehicle versus Tesla owners.
You've never seen a Tesla?
No, I've seen the Teslas around, but the Rivian is even if there are people I know that have owned a Tesla and have bought a Rivian, and they were like, I thought Tesla was good. Rivian is so much better. I don't know why I ever thought Tesla was good. And it's like,
I think I mentioned this a while back. We took my younger cousins, they're 5 and 7. We took them out and we were driving around, and anytime they saw a Tesla, they got really, really excited. That's the new luxury car for
you
little
can't
boys.
buy that kind of advertising.
Yeah. They also got excited by ambulances, though, so they're maybe not the tastemakers.
I have so much of the opposite reaction last night. Well, the space race, it was hot there for a while, but SpaceX really pulled ahead, and I think the recent events might just shake off the bottom players.
Virgin Orbit fails to secure funding and will cease operations and lay off nearly the entire workforce. It's going to be left with about 100 people, a skeleton crew, and they're just going to try to figure out where to go from there.
They're just going to be out back shooting off bottle rockets all day.
Woo! They're getting Drizly deliveries.
And Substack, one of the issues with the current collapse and like the crypto failure is that venture capital got hit hard by that because they invested in a lot of stuff that's not going to exist anymore. So they're not quite as ready to give up those venture capital dollars.
Substack invites newsletter writers to invest. I was not aware that newsletter writers had money to invest.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. I was like, might be hitting up the wrong tree there.
They're probably also hitting up their grandma to invest as well.
Yeah, they're trying to stay afloat, and they're only trying to raise 2 million from their newsletter subscribers. So it shows you that they can't scratch together 2 million. Pretty wild. I like Substack, but so often I get paywalled on it. I'm just like, nah.
I'm so tired of paywalls. Anyway, support us on Patreon and Float.
It's always free.
The news is free.
And I don't know what you're talking about, Krista. The links with
The Links with Friends show is free, though you get early access and 1 mega episode if you subscribe there.
The other thing the collapse is doing is sort of showing in the giant companies which divisions they are now ready to give up on.
Google Assistant might be doomed. Division, quote unquote, reorganizes to focus on Bard. Google Assistant makes no money and hasn't released hardware in 2 years. Yeah, it's because it's kind of terrible.
That's another, like, this is the future. All the assistants
Who
are all
wanted
dead.
that? Yeah.
Well, not even. So there's this amazing project a guy made, which was the Google Assistant Brain Slug. And that was amazing because it would play noise into the microphone of the Google Assistant because it was always on and always listening. And the Brain Slug was not networked and self-contained. And you could say the Brain Slug keyword, which would then turn off the noise so that the Google Assistant could hear you. That's brilliant. Nobody wants an always-on listening microphone. And worse yet, they want a company that they can be confident would actually handle their private stuff well. That's not Amazon. That's not Google. That's not Microsoft. That's zero of those companies. So why does our assistant not do well? Well, that's why.
And your outsourcing plans might also be disrupted by the fact that you are now going broke.
GitHub slashes engineering team in India. That's Microsoft.
That's kind of surprising to me because there for a while there was a really big trend of like people moving their dev teams to India because it was cheaper.
Yeah, but right now you actually have amazingly, well, not right now, but in 6 months, you're going to have a huge influx of available tech workers. They'll still be way cheaper to do it in India, but clearly they're, trying to move the eggs into the basket and protect them. And Binance survived the big crypto destruction, but in the meantime, they're being chipped away at, and more we keep learning things that don't sound good.
The Reuters headline is investors pull $1.6 billion from Binance after CFTC lawsuit. This is the least bad headline that you could have because the best headline was what all is going on in that CFTC lawsuit. Good Lord, it's smoking gun insanity at Binance.
I would not keep my cryptocurrency at Binance. It's not something I would
Neither
do.
would the people that filed the lawsuit against them.
Where would you keep it? In your freezer or under your mattress?
You could say, we're going to do the ultimate cold wallet. We're going to keep it in the freezer. I think it'd probably be better in like a low humidity, just room temperature environment. But if you had to do it in the freezer, probably all right.
I mean, we all have that one grandfather that's keeping the gold Krugerrands and like the antique clock. It's going to be like, oh, Ryan's cryptocurrency. Somebody discovered it after he died in his model PDP-11 that he had on his...
When my granny passed, she was one of those people who like hid money everywhere, like in the freezer or under like vases. And
that's good for gold and silver, not so great for currency.
yeah, but it was you grew up in the Great Depression. It was like, oh, I can't trust the bank, so I'm just gonna hide cash
You
everywhere.
got to vacuum pack it in plastic.
So the dogs can't find it.
Well, so it doesn't deteriorate.
Yeah.
And Amazon is, they had their layoffs, they had their restructuring, and now it seems to be that they know that there's going to be even more competition for these jobs. So why give the employees any concessions at all?
The New York Post headline is Amazon workers fume after Human Resources rejects petition against Amazon's mandatory return to office.
Do you think the human resources people are working from home as they reject it? Sorry, you have to come back.
I don't know. They might be showing up just to like show initiative at this point.
Yeah.
Please, I'm valuable. Please. So they actually they felt like they did a really good job, giving them pros and cons and why it would be good overall to do that. They didn't care.
It is worth saying that Amazon is doing a much more structured and better, return to office initiative than, like say Musk with Twitter, where he was just like, show up or you're fired. And then
you're going to stay here. You have to sleep at the office.
Yeah, the Amazon one is just 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And here's a sign that things are definitely getting worse. We all know that buy now, pay later was really popularized recently, but generally that's like mostly your tech gadgets type stuff. You're going to do that.
Layaway back in the day for Christmas.
Big items. That's no longer the case.
More Americans are now using buy now, pay later services to pay for groceries. Here's why that's a worrying sign.
I mean, it seems self-evident.
Yeah, I don't think you needed that last little bit, editor. You wrote that into the title, but
they do point out that it's not just people are out of money. It's also that your weekly grocery bill is becoming more and more of a big ticket item.
it is.
It's
yeah.
a massive cost for some people.
I was seeing too, I was reading a thread about like going out to eat, and people were talking about how like it's just not even worth it to go out because you realize after you've paid for everything that you could have just bought a week of groceries with that.
Yeah. I actually, there's a Domino's near me that actually will deliver to my address now. It's the first time I've ever been able to get pizza.
Ooh.
So I was like, let me just price one. And it was like $22.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, at that point, might as well just eat something at home.
Yeah, I'll just make it myself for that.
Yeah.
Like you say, I could get the ingredients for 3 pizzas, even at current prices.
And the ingredients will be better and probably not trying to kill you.
Yeah, and probably, taste better.
And PUFA free.
Yeah.
Which is important. Well, Sam Bankman-Fried, he's still awaiting justice, but as he waits, the news just gets worse and worse and worse, and the misconduct, it just seems to be terrible. But here's the thing about it. Why aren't we putting a stop to this now that we know it? Like, we know if you're doing something with stolen money, aren't there rules?
Well, you dig into this. This is more evil than it appears.
But how does that counter my argument?
Let's do the headline. The Forbes headline is Sam Bankman-Fried's legal defense is being funded with Alameda money he gifted his father. That's the headline.
The father who put him up on bail with their house?
With their
Yeah.
house. Well,
No, that was somebody else.
I thought it was it was his parents.
was it?
Yeah.
It was his parents,
Okay.
yeah. But you dig into this, and there's not actually conclusive proof of that, but he did file all the paperwork with the IRS, and he did dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, and he did take out loans that he probably shouldn't have with Alameda money, but none of those things individually are illegal. But here's the really interesting thing. So other than borrowing money from the company that he probably shouldn't have, and shuttling funds from FTX to the other company, like all that, yes, whatever, that's fine, that's a thing. He had an insurance policy that would cover legal costs and pay for lawyers and stuff, and the insurance policy is ready to pay out, and the feds are blocking the access to that money. There's also the Robinhood stocks, and the feds are blocking access to that because reasons. And so it's like, where does he get money for his defense? Because they're just systematically cutting it off. So this is the new one. It's like, oh, we need to claw back money from the dad because that's probably ill-gotten gains as well.
Almost surely.
Yeah.
But it's everywhere. It's at every level. It's like, oh, we need to cut it off. Oh, we need to cut it off. Oh, we need to cut it off. But the headline exists before the evidence does.
But that's because that was his thing. He spread money everywhere.
Yeah.
He covered all of his bases, even one that might get him in more trouble than any other ones, because this is really not in vogue right now.
FTX founder Bankman-Fried charged with paying $40 million in a bribe. And this has to do with China. So they were trying to do business in China. And it turns out that you got to pay some bribes to do business in China. So he did. And then, oh no, he's paid some bribes in China. Oh no. Oh. I'm not apologizing for him or anything, but this is also going on with things like Foxconn. Because if you think Foxconn is not paying bribes to continue to operate,
or Tesla, or
in
yeah,
and
any
around
of them.
China, you're sadly mistaken.
But here's the thing. Here's the big difference, right? Foxconn operates a business that is not 100% fraud.
Yeah, there is actually a good or service being produced there. Yeah.
Yeah. Larry David was right.
And while the fear and greed index right in the middle. Totally neutral today.
The other day when all the banks were like starting to get real wobbly, it was like extreme fear.
Yeah.
Whoever came up with that at CNN Business has got to be a cynical sweetheart.
Oh no, that's like a mathematical formula.
That's crazy.
I don't think they invented that.
It's like the doomsday clock, but for the stock market.
Kind of, yeah. So yeah, Credit Suisse, we talked about them a little bit last week, but this is an article that points out, some of the more insane things about the Credit Suisse bailout and the amount of debt that has generated.
Too big for Switzerland, Credit Suisse rescue creates a bank twice the size of Switzerland's economy. What could possibly go wrong?
More importantly, it creates a bank that took all of that business that is now like even bigger, even more too big to fail than Credit Suisse was. So if the bank run were to start again in April, then if that bank failed, there literally wouldn't be enough money in Switzerland to bail it out.
I have a hard time thinking about this in monetary terms because the numbers are so large. So instead, I was thinking about it in terms of like my media storage and free space on ZFS pools. And it's like, oh no, there was that one time that I filled up all of my hard drive storage and then the backups stopped working. And then it was a really bad situation. And this is twice as big as that. So this is going to end very badly.
And with money, not old episodes of Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, we've talked a lot in the past about the Amazon recommendations, the, what do they call it? It's like the Amazon recommends or anyway, the stuff at the top or editor's picks or whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies have cried foul. They're like, it's impossible to get on the editor's picks. We don't know what the rules are, but even then, if there's corruption here, they're strong arming us in various ways to be able to be a part of this. And now we find that there was just straight up fraud and bribery going on there.
Amazon seller consultant admits to bribing employees to help clients and will plead guilty. It's interesting though, because the people inside Amazon took the money.
Ephraim Rosenberg. He actually he wasn't an Amazon employee. He had a cottage industry business where he would help people navigate the minefield that was being an Amazon seller. And he was like, listen, I will get you on the recommended list. Guaranteed. And the way he was guaranteeing it was by making payments.
Oh.
Bribery payments.
Yeah.
It will really upset me if his punishment is worse than the people inside Amazon who actually did the things.
He just used
Should be
SEO
equal.
tactics, right? He didn't just pay him money.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the stuff that happens in the advertising industry and like some of the stuff that goes into that, it's like, this doesn't look a lot different than advertising and what advertisers are doing.
Now, Amazon, we all know they sell a massive amount of trash.
Right.
Some of their products are astoundingly bad and in many cases are just fake or do not function. So it seems that now that they're getting into a bit of an economic crunch and the logistics of having all of those picked up for return is starting to bite into the bottom line, they might actually do something about it.
Amazon starts flagging frequently returned products that you maybe shouldn't buy.
I bet this is also an image management issue because, like, at least in my friend group, everyone kind of acknowledges that Amazon is mostly junk at this point.
Yeah, 100%. This has to do with the federal investigation and the antitrust stuff because they're going to say, why did you allow fraud to perpetuate in third-party sellers in the marketplace stuff?
So this poor turntable product here has become sort of the mascot for returned items. It's apparently one of the most returned items on Amazon. So here we can see the little warning that you're going to get when you buy one of these products.
It's going to be a spiral for whoever's making those too.
Yeah.
I bet a lot of, so like when you look at solar fountains, there's hundreds of them. And I bet half of them are frequently returned or break
We
very
need
quickly.
we need to set up the Spider-Man image in an OBS frame
Yeah.
so that we can pull it up with the hotkey, because my God, it's so often apt for these technology stories.
Exclusive. Google says Microsoft cloud practices, they're anti-competitive. Yeah.
Imagine that.
Oh,
This has to do with mostly the EU cloud stuff, and Microsoft, just like with AI, is way ahead on that, and Google does not like it.
yeah, Google is definitely, well, as we'll see in the AI section, they're feeling a little scared, I think.
My read of this too is Google is extra salty because Google actually was kind of the first mover here, and like some of the AI stuff, they just fumbled. And Azure has actually become, like, if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, it's become a not awful product. Windows Server products are better because Microsoft had to dog food Windows Server actually working. And they're like, oh, maybe we should fix these horribly egregious problems with our operating system. They haven't fixed all of them, but it's better than it was.
I like that you didn't say it was good, just not awful. It's not
Well,
awful.
that's all that's from now on, right?
It's not
Least awful is
great, but it's
most
not
we're gonna
awful.
hope for.
I'll go out on a limb and say that Microsoft's InfiniBand high performance compute cluster is head and shoulders better than anything Google has in Google Compute, and that Google still doesn't understand that should be a wake up call for Google. But instead, they're just salty at the EU.
Yeah.
And you could probably also add this to the column of things we're trying to do to prove that we're not a monopoly.
Google launches Ads Transparency Center as a searchable database. What's going to be interesting is that they're going to be able to out advertisers that are basically doing the same thing as what the Amazon dude was for the fraud thing, by connecting the dots in the database that this exposes. So, you know, all the intrepid Kyle Wiggerses out there can go to this database, search for things, and find smoking guns, probably.
You know, I haven't seen a lot of
An
his
article?
bylines recently. I hope he's all right.
Yeah,
He's been replaced by AI.
he was writing articles well enough. He's probably doing something that pays better now.
I hope so.
Well, do you remember when it was announced that was it Windows 10 was going to be the last version of Windows, or was it 11?
I was Windows 10. Windows 10 was going to be the and then
Windows 10. There'll never be another version of Windows. It's going to be Windows 10 for the rest of time. That didn't last very long.
Microsoft plans major platform upgrades for Windows 12 that will modernize the OS with AI, faster updates, and better security. Meanwhile, I'm really glad that Gabe has embraced Steam for Linux. Finally, the year of the Linux desktop, coinciding with the Windows 12 release. Woo!
I don't know about that. This is an interesting product in terms of they're trying to do low power, low compute type to compete with Chrome OS. So what they do actually is they take the Windows and they begin to scrape off all the horribleness that we hate.
All the ads everywhere.
Well, no, the ads are going to stay. But all that extra functionality that no one really needs until they get it down to something that will perform on crappy hardware.
You know, that was what they said, but in the demo, the start menu still had the awful ads, and then they hit the cursor on the side and it popped up the sidebar, which is just littered with antitrust complaints. Like this, if the Windows sidebar on Windows 11 is just, how have the feds not said, what are you doing, Microsoft? This looks like what we sued you over in the 90s.
I don't think they're promising a lack of ads or crappy features. They're just promising it'll run on that hardware.
I would totally give $5 or $10 to Microsoft to make that go away at this point.
A month?
No, a year.
A year.
How much a month would you pay for functional Teams?
Probably like $50 a month. If you had instantaneously responding teams where it was like,
It actually sent the messages when you sent it, or you received a message when it was sent.
Because did you ever get my message when we tried to come up with the titles for these episodes, and I was in a meeting.
I didn't get them at all. No.
Yeah, and
I just came up with them with the editor.
Actually, in the meeting, I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Let me send a quick Teams message." No, it was like, "We're having trouble sending this. It's still out there in the ether somewhere."
Yeah, I never got that. Later on, when you got back to your desktop and you were like, "Oh, sorry," I was like, "Oh, I saw you were in a meeting."
I get it.
But not from your text.
I get a Teams invite for somebody that's going to buy some ads from us. And so I was in the meeting with them, and it was on speakerphone, and Teams kept taking it off of speakerphone. And I was like, are you there? And they were talking, but it was in the headset of the phone, and it just kept doing that over and over again. And it's just, obviously the people that work on Teams don't actually use Teams. That's the only explanation.
Yeah.
Well, they fixed it. And I think we mentioned this last week, but now they're saying that the new version is ready and it is going to start rolling out.
Yeah, the headline is Microsoft says its new version of Teams is twice as fast, but in the demo that they showed, it was not compelling. It was actually still kind of a trash fire.
But speed isn't really my problem with Teams. It's just the fact that,
Functionality.
it just doesn't function well.
Basic
Yeah.
sending and receiving is the issue. Actually, speed is the issue if you count infinite as a speed, because that's the amount of time it takes to deliver a message in Teams sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes it would be faster with the carrier pigeon. It's strange.
It's so bad. It's so bad. I don't understand how it's so bad.
Here's a weird one that is a big 180, and you got to wonder, was some lobbying finally done here? Was there a suitcase full of cash? But this is, they claim that this is like, okay, we've seen enough and we're happy now, but this was a big turnaround.
UK regulator finally sides with Microsoft over Call of Duty on PlayStation concerns. The UK's Competition and Markets Authority has updated its financial models after Microsoft publicly criticized its math. Microsoft was right. They used their own criteria against them. And then it does show things coming out better in the long run monetarily for the UK if this goes through based on the UK's Competition and Markets Authority model, which is funny.
And Microsoft has been making a lot of concessions.
Yeah.
They're giving up a lot. I mean, it's probably not competitive still. It's probably not a great thing, but.
Do you have any idea how much money we've spent trying to be creative? We could just steal their intellectual property. Just let us buy it.
There's another Guardian article.
Yeah, it's just the Guardian that's messed up.
You got to read the URL. Oh, right. Yeah. So NVIDIA, hilariously, now that we've found another use case for their hardware being AI, which will gobble up all of their supply from now on out, all of a sudden now they're like, yeah, cryptocurrency? That's terrible. Don't do it.
The Guardian has the article on cryptocurrencies add nothing useful to society. And NVIDIA says that they're here to double down on AI. They're going to open up the ecosystem. They're going to do more open source stuff. They're here to...
You're telling me that they saw that the crypto sticker wasn't cool anymore, so they peeled that off and put the AI sticker on instead.
No, they just put the AI sticker over it.
But you can still kind of see the edges of the old crypto one.
Because if we get that 6-month AI moratorium, they're going to just peel it right back off.
Oh, crypto's so cool. Blockchain.
What we don't know is that there's a planet-wide extinction event that's coming in 10 or 15 years, and the AI had to send cryptocurrency back in time. Satoshi Nakamura, is that right? It was an AI superintelligence from the future that was sent back in time in order to invent cryptocurrency, in order to accelerate the rate at which this hardware would be invented so that the AI could become sentient and in time to save the planet.
Alternate timeline, Carrington Event 2.0.
Well, that's what it's trying to save us from.
No, but it's not gonna work. We're all gonna have to go outside and we're gonna have to touch grass.
More like cave dirt, right?
Yeah. But think how happy we'll be.
Well, some bad news for you extremely late adopters out there.
Steam will drop support for Windows 7 and Windows 8 on January 1st, 2024. Steam hung on to Windows XP for a long time after it was obsolete, and they're getting rid of Windows 7 and 8 relatively quickly, but that's fine.
Not quite 2% of the player base still running those operating systems.
I guess they saw the numbers for Windows XP and said, we got to do something there.
And Apple, they say never let a crisis go to waste, right? As the populace is spiraling into economic collapse, what do? Well, you charge them an interest rate.
Apple introduces Apple Pay Later to allow customers to pay for purchases over time. If you are buying the 96 gigabyte memory MacBook Pro, congratulations, you're definitely a 0.1%er.
But this isn't just Apple products.
Yeah,
this is Apple Pay. So whatever you're paying for.
I think up to $1,000. Was that what it said in the article?
Like food?
Everyday expenses.
And Jack Ma was missing for quite some time. And everybody was like, hey, what happened to Jack Ma? Nobody's seeing him. Well, apparently he was hashing out this deal so that he could return to China, which he's now done. They've got a picture of him in public. Seems like everything is okay.
Got a gun to his back.
And all he had to do was give up everything.
Alibaba to split into 6 companies, pursue IPOs in major shakeup.
Ouch.
Have any of you guys used Alibaba?
See,
I tried to one time, but like the registration was so weird. And
yeah, the network cards that came from your thing that are in your router came from Alibaba, which is maybe why they were a little sketchy.
And oh, you know what? This was missorted, but we talked about the Binance thing earlier. Oh no, that was in the collapse section, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
here's
I alluded to this.
here's why. Here's the hard details on what Binance was up to in China.
Binance concealed its ties to China for years, even after 2017 crypto crackdown report. This is the CFTC lawsuit, but there may be a lot more going on here, a lot more criminal activity than is on the surface. And so this is a good write-up of some of the stuff that may be exposed in that.
Some great quotes in here.
It's like, we no longer publish our office addresses. People in China can directly say that our office is not in China.
And then there was another quote where it was like, if someone asks where our offices are, say that we're in Singapore, say that we're in Vietnam. Don't say China. I know some of you are in China. Don't say that. And the supply chain attacks continue to be horrible. All of that stuff is just a mockery at this point. I don't know how we fix this.
1 in 2 NPM packages is SEO spam right now. I love the headline. NPM install mayonnaise with gummies.
So there you go. That's a pie chart that's real easy to understand. Seems that they're mostly Russian Telegram accounts that are creating these. Watch movies online coming in at Fortnite V-Bucks, a distant fourth. Fortnite, maybe not as popular as it once was. But that's just tragic. I mean, you get these packages, you're just getting garbage. And apparently, I don't know who's installing these packages, but apparently they're trying to market this to the Russian people to get them to bite on it. And what an unfortunate name that Epic chose for one of its new technologies.
Yeah.
MetaHumans, because Meta is going to be a mockery from now on.
Epic's hyperrealistic MetaHumans can soon be animated using an iPhone.
I think for me, we could probably play part of the video here. I thought it was a little like, it's almost there, but it's still down in the valley. It's down in that uncanny valley still
I
for me.
thought it was perfect except for the teeth.
They have like kind of a weird twitchy movement that doesn't feel right.
But it looks a lot like video games that get that close.
Yeah.
And it doesn't require any modeling.
It's still down in the valley though.
I thought it's fine except for the teeth. And they probably are using teeth because it looked weird without teeth.
Yeah, as a rule.
It's got to be all old people.
Well,
Yeah. You can't necessarily see people's teeth when they're talking, but it is weird.
You can tell if they're not there.
Yeah.
It's very structural.
Yeah.
Well, the funding crunch is biting on the people at the fringes, I suppose, the most. There's a lot of payment processors that have kind of been like ESG'd out of existence. It's something that people don't like to talk about. So we're just not going to do business with you. So they create their own funding system with blackjack and hookers, literally. And that gets shut down too.
Profession as old as time workers led payment platform shuts down after being cut off by its payment processor. So they created a ledger, a cryptocurrency basically, that could be used to pay for services in the profession as old as any profession.
You're not going to read the sub-headline to give them the name of the payment processor?
No.
That's not bad.
yeah, I don't think probably wouldn't be demonetized for that one.
But this is sad though, because this is also the elimination of cash, and you should be able to pay for things privately.
Yeah, especially those things.
Yeah.
Well, Docker, it's one of these businesses that had a really cool product and everybody adopted it. And then later they were like,
They undid this.
You need to pay for that.
They changed their mind.
Yeah, but they still did it. They tried.
They're going to try again. They always do.
Docker was deleting open source organizations. Here's what you need to know. They basically said, we looked around and we're not making any money on this. We're going to stop. And then there was a lot of backlash. And then Docker, the organization, said, you know what? That was an oops. We're sorry about that. Please, let's not accidentally turn this into a thing that accelerates everyone's departure from the closed Docker hub, because everybody was setting up other alternative open hubs in which to get your Docker containers. And let's not talk about the IBM Podman thing, which is basically a drop-in replacement for Docker. Oh God, no. So the Docker organization has made some questionable choices that have driven people to things like Podman, even though Docker is still kind of a lot of fun. as a technology.
The guy he wrote Curl was one of these Dockers, and they were just like, hey, we're going to need $420 a month from you. And he's like, well, you use my technology to build Docker. Yeah, I'm with Krista. I think this is temporary.
Yeah.
Yeah, they always try to bring it back. It's I was thinking the other day about how Bethesda tried to do the paid mods for Skyrim. Whenever they release that new Starfield game, it'll almost certainly have paid mods. I think free mods are a thing of the past.
Even though they've rolled back here, it's really not going to undo the damage from their point of view. It's possible to have open Docker registries, and so now that's just going to drive the acceleration of open and not-for-profit things like that.
But now they did point out that some people were using it for nefarious purposes.
Yeah.
And they were trying to combat that. It probably wasn't all that. I'm almost surely wasn't all that.
That sounds like a good excuse, but that part of their press release rang hollow.
But I'm sure that's an issue. I mean, you know how quickly people will try to co-opt anything that's available online. Well, let's talk about some hardware and Intel in the data center. They say that they've got some hot stuff on the horizon.
Reuters has the headline, Intel says power-efficient Sierra Forest chip will be delivered in the first half of 2024. So we get the Intel Investor Day thing a couple of days ago. I went to that. Reuters has got a pretty good write-up. The Investor Day thing sounded really, really good. Intel said they're on track. Everything is great. Server is good. Workstation is good. They just launched Sapphire Rapids, the 2000 series CPUs, which not really super amazing looking so far. They didn't seed anybody. As of the time that we're doing this, there's still no reviews, even though you can buy the CPU at Newegg. They didn't seed anybody. Nobody has one. There's 3000 series CPUs that are 8 channels of DDR5 on the desktop, which is Sapphire Rapids. Those are coming around probably the middle of April, give or take, I'd say. That's just a guess. I don't know. I'm not NDA on any of that. But again, super weird launch. And so this press event thing, everything looks good, and it says like we're on track to deliver Emerald Rapids in the fourth quarter of 2023. So just a few months away, which is scary. And a whole bunch of other technologies with accelerators and things like that. So, but it's long on promises. Their stock was up after this.
And the RTX 4070 has a bit of a checkered past. They did some things that people were not happy about and ended up undoing those things. And now we're going to get the base model.
The GeForce RTX 4070 MSRP to match the RTX 3070 Ti. The 4070 will be $200 cheaper than the 4070 Ti, according to video cards. $599.
Will that go up with all the AI stuff eventually?
I'd say they still got some stuff on hand from the crypto collapse, for sure.
All the new AAA titles really, really want 8 gigs or more of VRAM, so that's going to limit how much those SKUs can be cut down. 8 gigs of VRAMs costs a lot if it's fast.
And the Apple headset. That has been a swirl of rumors this week. None of them good. We will start out with the announcement that it was going to be coming, or they were going to like show it off at WWDCC, which is what, June, I think?
That sounds right.
And that now has maybe not the case.
Apple mixed reality headset may not appear at the Worldwide Developer Conference as mass production has been pushed back yet again. So the Mac rumors take on this is that it still kind of feels half-baked and nobody's really excited about it, blah, blah, blah. The reality may be that they still show it at WWDC, but they're going to wait and see if everybody freaks out and really wants to adopt it before they commit to mass producing a lot of units.
And it is all rumor, but some people apparently have had a hands-on with it, and the reviews are not good.
Apple employees fear Mr. Headset could be an expensive flop. MR is mixed reality, so MR headset. But
it's also the abbreviation for Mr.
I think we should all, like Level 1 should start the thing where we just pejoratively refer to the headset as Mr. Headset.
Are we really going to be gendering in 2023?
That's another dimension of the hilarity.
So yeah, some people have said that, they're multiple fronts. They don't think people will pay $4,000 for this.
Absolutely not.
There is no software suite yet. And they say it's not comfortable. It's too heavy.
See, all of that is playing into Tim Cook's thing though, because think about all the stuff everybody said about Steve Jobs' iPhone in what was it, 2000?
When did that come out? Was it 2008?
Was it 2008, 2009, 2003? I don't know.
But
I
that
remember
was-
my roommate in college got one in like 2011.
But that was proven technology, and everybody was just like, "No, the BlackBerry is better. We don't need these changes. There is no proven technology here. We know that people wanted phones. We don't know that people want VR headsets. But for the most part, we know that they don't."
Yeah.
And Amazon has expanded its sidewalk network
Oh,
to open it up to end users.
Amazon opens its low bandwidth, long range sidewalk network to developers. So you get this little kit in the mail, and it's going to tell you if you're within range and what your signal level is. But it doesn't tell you where the base stations are or who has it or anything like that. It just says, nah, this is a thing. And if you're thinking, what have they done? The sidewalk network. So if you have Amazon devices in your house, they'll provide the sidewalk network for anybody that happens to be walking by. Now, it is a vanishingly small amount of bandwidth, and it doesn't really, there's not really any negative side effects. This is an IoT network. So, but your Ring doorbell is letting anybody's sidewalk device use your connection to phone home.
You say there's no side effects, but I would list overwhelming invasion of privacy
yeah.
under this side effect column.
Well, you could have an IoT device that is just like there's a water in your basement sensor.
You know what I constantly pick up when I'm looking at the Wi-Fi networks? My neighbor's CPAP machine.
That doesn't seem like that's good.
Or I'm sorry, not wireless, Bluetooth.
Bluetooth.
It's Bluetooth. Yeah. I mean, that's wireless, but not Wi-Fi. And we'd had the big chip crunch, and Raspberry Pis were really, really tough to get for a while. I think that's now unwinding, but also we have a new entry.
Orange Pi 5 is a great and very fast alternative to the Raspberry Pi 4. Up to 32 gigabytes of memory, not storage, memory.
For like $150.
That can't be right. That sounds amazing. I want one that'll run on 2 AA batteries for 40 hours.
So you want magic.
Yeah.
With the magical battery technology.
Well, IBM is going to install some magic at the Cleveland Clinic because quantum computing is coming to healthcare.
IBM Quantum System 1 deployed at the Cleveland Clinic.
They list all the things it's going to be doing down here. So basically, drug research is a big part of it. They're going to do like cardiovascular risk analysis with quantum computing, genome sequencing, and there's only 3 bullets. Yeah, genome sequencing.
And that's it. And a fourth thing.
It turns out they found a few things where having a quantum algorithm maybe actually is a little better than a classical algorithm. Good job, team.
Spaceflight, or no, this was Gizmodo. Gizmodo did not update their headline. This happened and it was successful.
Starlink rival OneWeb poised for global coverage after weekend launch. Their last 32 or 36 satellites, so they've got a total of, 416 now that are operational. India, and it was launched from India, right?
Yep.
So OneWeb has a global internet thing now, like Starlink, although less bandwidth because they've only got 400 satellites. But they can offer worldwide internet access now. Woo.
Looking forward to when all the phones have it.
Yeah.
Of course, that'll probably be an extra like $20 a month that they don't even let us choose whether or not we get. It's just like, you have to have this. It's emergencies.
I have a feeling that the satellite communication from buildings is going to take a while because, the signal attenuation from going through the building material is probably not great.
Well, you don't need it there because it'll fall back to the network.
Regular towers. Yeah.
It's only when you get away from society that you...
Yeah.
And the airlines are, at this point, I think airline travel is one of the most unpleasant things you can do.
Can confirm.
Unless you're super rich. And if you're super rich, not only do you get better, experience at the airline, but now you don't have to worry about the traffic with the other plebs on your way to the airport.
Ars Technica reports United Airlines reveals its first vertical takeoff and landing passenger route starting in 2025.
eVTOL.
Electric.
So, battery powered vertical takeoff and landing. They're going to take you from downtown Chicago to the airport in 10 minutes, and that's going to cost you $10 a minute.
Ooh.
So how many minutes is that ride?
10 minutes.
Yeah, so
So it's $100.
$100.
Right, it's $100 per trip.
I like that you're like, I would pay that. That's what's going through your head right
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Chicago is just awful. Sorry.
And Huawei, they have been languishing in the sanction world for a long time now. They haven't been able to get any kind of technology. They claim that they're just going to do it themselves, and they've had success.
Barred from US Tech, Huawei claims to have built its own 14 nanometer chip design suite. Now, we first saw this reported, I think it was November of last year. This would be a process roughly comparable to Global Foundries process, although there's some details that are leaking out of this that makes me think that Global Foundries is probably still a better process. But there's some, the register has some more stuff out of that makes it seem like, well, they might actually have this. It's still nowhere near mass production. Not really.
And a couple of security stories, and these should be cautionary tales about our rapid advance into AI and incorporating it into everything, because there's some access that AI would happily be like, I'll go through that and read it, and then maybe I'll tell people about it.
Huge Microsoft exploit allowed users to manipulate Bing search results and access Outlook email accounts.
This is a return of an old stock image that I absolutely love.
Yeah. The cursor as a knife is really that's what sets it off.
The headline should have been Bing Bang, because that's the name of the vulnerability. They found a web portal that let you manipulate Bing search results. So they made the Hackers movie for best movie soundtrack.
And you could put a malicious link in there if you were so inclined.
We have put it here. Thank you.
And IBM has some internal file delivery products that needed to be patched. Now, you should have patched this a long time ago, and you might have been just like, nobody will target me. They're targeting now.
Ransomware crooks are exploiting IBM file exchange bug with a 9.8 severity. It's Aspera Faspex.
Terrible
server.
name.
Yeah. Aspera.
None of them are great.
That sounds like a mental disease, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, he's got Faspex. Overlook him. Yeah, they found one in the wild. It's bad stuff. But that company could have easily patched months ago. They chose not to. And GitHub had a bit of embarrassment with its SSH keys. That was a problem for a little while, but good news. They've rotated them.
GitHub.com rotates its exposed private SSH key out of an abundance of caution.
There they are. RIP.
Oops.
They should they should put like a big marble statue in the lobby and have those etched onto it. And it's like, never forget.
Oh no, we forgot the 3CX story. Go back to the previous tab and click on the 3CX story.
3CX story? Is that something you added late?
Maybe I messed up. It was the top right.
That was not in the list.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
My bad.
Hackers compromised 3CX desktop app in a supply chain attack. So this is like a soft phone, VoIP phone. This is affecting millions of customers because they didn't catch this very quickly. So if you use 3CX with a soft phone, it's probably already too late. You should have patched a long time ago. But their binary distribution was hacked, and so it was very bad.
Once again, you can tell what stories that they've focused on because they do the interactive header.
Yeah.
And well, I guess it's not interactive, but it's nice. It's really well done. And you have to scroll down just to get the headline. But here's a cautionary tale. If you're like a crypto bro or young Silicon Valley person, just remember that everybody in the world is evil and they're out to destroy you.
He was a self-made millionaire looking for a good time, but a Tinder date turned out to be a brazen car theft scam. And things only got worse when he tried to get his prized Jaguar back.
So they lay out a tale, and they went into way too many details here because they go into the two girls who were basically sugar babies for him, and they have nothing to do with the story.
Yeah.
They just wanted to kind of dunk on this guy for being a loser, a rich loser. So, and then one of his sugar babies, or both of them, they leave the country. So he's left thirsty for weeks at a time. So he goes to Tinder, and his Tinder date was like, hey, because he put that he was rich in his Tinder profile,
Which,
obviously.
yeah, great.
And she was like, hey, what kind of car do you got? Can I drive it? Oh, hey, we should get a hotel room later, but bring cash. Don't use a credit card. And he was just like, all right. Sure,
He didn't. The red flag.
They went to Denny's. Like, you got millions of dollars, you go to Denny's. And then she was like, oh, hey, let's go to a house party. I have a friend. And again, she's driving. So she drove his Jaguar to an empty house. And she's like, oh, I have to go pee. I'll be right back. She goes to pee in the bushes. And when she returns, two other gentlemen also return with guns. So he was left in the woods with no Jaguar, no phone, no Movado watch, and
but cash.
they got something else from him too. No, he was smart enough not to bring the cash.
Well, I think they were gonna. Oh yeah. I just assumed that they were gonna leave him with the cash so he would be able to get back to civilization.
Oh
But
God!
probably not.
That's so sweet that you would think that.
What about their behavior
Yeah.
would point
Yeah.
to that?
Yeah.
Mike Vallejo.
Oh,
I would say F's in the chat, but honestly, he doesn't deserve them.
Poor guy.
He'll be all right with his millions of dollars, I'm sure.
I really feel
that's
like
still traumatizing, though. I mean, it's weird, but
I really feel like the article authors were working on their it's like they're working on a novel, and this was practice for, stuff that's gonna the way that it's written. It's like, oh, I'm working on my novel.
let's see how
Krista-
social media responds to this, and then
Krista, you said you're showing him a little sympathy. Let me take that away from you.
okay.
One of the things that they talk about in the story that he admitted to is that he was very disappointed in his Tinder date because she wasn't the picture on the profile and he thought she was ugly. So a friend was like, he texted him and was like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm on a Tinder date. And the guy was like, oh, send me a picture. And he was ashamed of her ugliness. So he asked her to look down when he took the picture.
Also, maybe I'm just too far out of the game at this point, but like, who does that? Who takes a picture of your date?
Insecure Silicon Valley millionaires.
I guess, yeah. Weird.
But he still went to the house party, which means that even though he found her unattractive, he was still looking to bang.
That's so straight. Like, just people.
Well,
Can you call them people?
Remember when the whole the Sam Bankman-Fried stuff came out and they're like wild Bahamian orgies?
He said there was nothing to any of that.
Yeah, he said his business wasn't fraudulent too.
I just, I don't understand these people.
We have a record-breaking nonsense section for you on Friday.
We do.
Record-breaking.
So if you're needing like a little palate cleanser after all the horror this week, stay tuned for that.
Fun times.
We'll see you then. Bye.